Hello everyone, welcome to this first Nine Realms Forge tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to tie on a lanyard like I normally tie on to my knives. A good example is this one, which is right now on the M4 Freak. And this form factor, this is 275 cord on the M4 Freak, but I'm going to show you in 550 because it's easier to see. But the form factor I like is snake knot beads, snake knots, another bead, a single Turk's head, the main bead in the double Turk's head. This, I find, gives me the best, thing to grab coming out of the pocket because it steadily gets wider towards the end. For this, you will need a torch-style lighter, a separate knife, the knife you're going to put the lanyard on, about 4 feet or so of cord of each color, your beads, and a needle-nosed pliers. So let's just jump right into it without any further ado. Move things out of the way here. All right. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cauterize one of the ends of the cord, and you're going to want to make these relatively neat and clean. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to weld the ends right here. Now this process can get tricky. You can also see that I've recess cut the filaments here. So the 7 strands that are in here, I've recess cut them so that make this process a little easier, a little more streamlined. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to heat these up, I'm going to stick them together, and then I'm going to pinch them to make sure that the contact is good. Now I've got enough callus on my fingertips where I can do this really without burning myself. But if you don't, I suggest you use your pliers for this. And if you can't do that while you're holding them together, an alligator jaw vise, like a jeweler's alligator jaw vise, will come in very handy here. So here we go. And I want to get these melted just so that I've got like a nice little ball of molten material on the end of each cord right here. There we are, right there. And then I'm going to stick them together. Wait until they tack, and then pinch to make sure that this contact is good. And there I am. That's my weld. Very good. Doesn't have to be pretty. We're going to hide it inside the first knot. We just want to make sure that it's at least relatively strong. Doesn't have to be super strong, just strong enough to go on with. So now it's necessary to decide what color you want the loop coming off the knife to be. In this case, I think I'm going to want it to be gray. So I'm going to thread my gray through first. All right. And here's where I'm going to have to start making decisions. I'm going to have to decide how big I want the loop here, how long, how much cord I want to be coming out here. Now, if this thing is sitting inside your pocket, right, I want my loop to be, hanging over the edge right there. Right, so about there really will do. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't twist the cord here. All right. So I'm going to pinch it here, come 90 degrees, pinch again, right there. Now I'm going to take my bottom cord, doesn't matter which color it is, it's on the bottom. I'm going to take my bottom cord, I'm going to loop it around, and I'm going to secure it with this finger right behind the weld here. Come up with this finger, loop the opposite color cord, bring it underneath this one, and then back through the loop. It should look like this. This is a pretty easy knot to tie. This is called a snake knot. Okay. And now I just want to cinch this up so that it hides that weld. And you want to be sure not to let go and not to introduce any twist into the loop here, which I've let go and introduced a little bit of twist, but I can fix it by twisting the opposite direction. All right, so now I'm going to try to hide this the best I can. All right, and I'm just going to pull each of these. All right, I'm going to keep messing with it until I've got the weld nicely hidden. All right, and the cord is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, there's our first snake knot. All right. Very good. So now I'm just going to mess with it a little bit, try to hide that weld as best I can. Come back over the top, make my loop again, sweep my finger back under, go right back through, and we're going to repeat this 3 more times. So this is the first, and I'm going to do 3 more. And I got this because I like these proportions a lot. It just looks right to me. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that each knot is very tight up against the next knot. It doesn't have to be pulled tight, but you want to make sure it fits snugly up against the knot before it. All right, so I'm not going to pull these that tight, but I am going to snug them up nicely. Once again, same thing. Finger through, feed through. All right. And if there's a twist in the cord, it's all right. You can just apply a little bit of opposite twist with your fingertips, and it should fix it. All right, keep that nice and snug. Snug it up against the ones before it. Pull to tighten slightly. Oh, no, come on. That weld is showing through just a little bit. There we are. And once again, over we go. Sweep the other cord under, back through the loop. And there we are. Okay. Snug this up against there. Give it a pull to tighten. All right. Now at this point, I like to put my first bead in. Beads break it up visually. They also give you something to tactily grab other than the cord itself. So for this first bead, I think I'm going to go for my Tibetan barrel bead right here. Got some inscription off a prayer wheel on it, so that's nice. Sorry. Alright, so here we are. I'm going to push this down as far as it'll go. And this is where I want to keep the alignment of my snake knot going. So I don't want to twist this up coming out of the barrel here. So there we are. And tying this first snake knot here, you just got to make sure that that brown stays on the bottom, gray stays on the top. That's that. And you want to pinch it, mess with it, do whatever you got to do to make sure it stays straight and snug it up, just like you did. All right, that looks good enough to go on with. Just give it a little tighten. And now I'm only going to do 3 of these, so 2 more here. And the reason is proportions. I just happen to like this proportion factor. Same deal. We're going to do 7 of these snake knots in total. So snug, cinch, repeat. All right, snug. Cinch for the last time. There we go. And that's what we have so far. All right, this is where I like my form factor to be. All right, so now I'm going to throw on another bead to differentiate the knots and to give me a little space. I'm going to use this leaf bead here, which I happen to like. They're cheap. You can find them on Etsy or sometimes on Amazon. But it's a good bead, and it's nice and round, nicely decorated. Has some visual appeal to it. So I'm just going to thread this through right here. No problem. Goes right on. Throw this all the way down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie my Turk's head knot. So I'm going to make a loop in one cord, and then with the other cord I'm going to twist it just like this, and I'm going to put this over the loop that I just made, just like that. Now I'm going to grab this cord. We're going to come up through the loop of the same color. So I should have this double overhand knot, this double interlocking overhand knot. It's really what it is right here. And I'm just going to cinch this down a little bit It's easier to do it now than it is to do it later. All right. Pull out a little of the excess. So now the next step in this is really quite simple. So you follow the direction that your knot is already going. All right, so for my gray cord, I'm going to bring it around the brown base cord right there. All right, and I'm going to come up through the center of the knot. Same thing for the brown one. I'm going to come around the gray base cord right here and up through the center of the knot. Oh no, center of the knot. There we go. Now, this looks like a hot mess right here, but once we start cinching this, it's going to fall into a nice Turk's head knot. I do this strand by strand, piece by piece, loop by loop. And that's really the story for the rest of the show here. All right, strand by strand, piece by piece, loop by loop. Really quite simple. It just takes patience and practice. All right, so strand by strand, loop by loop. Just cinch it up. And it doesn't have to be tight at this stage. In fact, it's better if it's not, because it allows you to tighten it evenly if it's not super tight at this stage. So here we are. Here's the basic Turk's head. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate my base chords. There's one right there. And the other one should be 180 degrees opposite right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick the loop after the base chord loop. And I'm just going to start cinching these up. All right, just start cinching it up. All right, right there. Once again, not too tight, but relatively tight. So here we go. The loop after the base chord loop. I'm just going to start cinching it up. And you may notice that at some point, really relatively early on, you're going to need to transfer to your needle noses. So if you're going to use the needle noses, just make sure you have a good grip on the loop that you're going to pull, because if you don't and it slips off, it can fray the cord. And you don't want frayed cord on a knot like this. So you just pull your excess through, just like that. And off she goes to the races. So I'm just going to finish this up on just, going back through the loops a little bit. Okay, now it's ready. And that is our Turk's head knot. All right. Got a little bit of room for the bead to move. That's fine. All right. Now we're going to do a double Turk's head knot. This is really the same knot. We're just going to use it like a follow through. All right. So I've also got this alligator bead here, whose aperture is just big enough for 2 pieces of 550 cord. This is a tight squeeze though. So if you're going to do this, make sure you've got some patience to mess with this thing until you can really thread it through. Now this one went quite easily for me because I pinched those ends before we started. But if you don't and you have a big glob of plastic hanging off the end, that's when it's going to get very difficult. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do this, you want to make sure that the alligator is going to face in the right direction so that when this thing's hanging out of your pocket, you see the top of the alligator. All right. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start the same way. All right, loop, other loop, throw it over the cord, bring your first looping cord up and over, go through this loop. All right, and here you are. You have our basic form factor right there. Okay. So now, once we're here, this is where the knots get different. And this is where it starts getting a little tricky. So I'm going to start with brown. And I'm going to identify this gray base cord right here. I'm going to bring the brown around the outside. And I'm going to follow around the outside of this gray base cord. So one thing at a time. And you're going to want to leave a little bit of loop right there, but not a lot. And you're just going to follow that cord around. So just follow it right around. Wherever it goes, that's where this thing goes. So right here, it goes up and out, so it's going to go up and out. Right? And there we are. That's the first follow through. So now we're just going to flip the entire thing around and do the same thing on the other side. Gray cord, you're going to identify this brown base cord coming up right there. Right? There you go. Just like that. Through. We're going to follow right around. Come up. Follow right through. Push this cord aside so you can come around the outside of it right here. And that's the trick. So right now you have this clover looking follow through thing right here. So here's your last step. So you have a brown cord coming out here and your base cord here is brown. It's going to be important that this is the same color. You want to go around the base cord one more time and up through the center. Flip it over, same thing. Gray base cord, gray end, around the base cord, up through the center. All right. Now we're really starting to look like one hot mess here. That's all right. All right, so just take a little bit of tension out of the top of it. You want it in sort of a ball shape, right? And you just mess with it a little bit. Just mess with it a little bit, pull, mess with it a little bit, pull, mess with it a little bit, pull. All right. So you want to keep things straight there. Okay, so now that I'm here and I've got a very loose knot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my base chords right here. And once again, I'm going to go to the loop after that. And I'm going to start cinching down. Now, I don't want this thing to be too tight at the bottom because I don't want it to interfere with the alligator's legs. All right, but I'm just going to cinch down a little bit each time. Identify that cord, cinch down. And it's fine if this thing is looking like a hot mess. That is absolutely fine. It's going to fall into a semblance of order. And then the more you tighten it, the more orderly it's going to get. All right, so there we are. And remember, at this stage, do not tighten this. It is not supposed to be tight at this stage. You're just taking the slack out of it. All right, so there we are, right there. Don't tighten this cord. You want to pull it, not tight, but you want to pull it snug. All right, and there's the end. Okay, go around the alligator. Here we are. And now we're going to do brown. So here's the first loop, the primary loop right there. Get it so it's the right distance from the alligator's feet. And we're just going to pull him tight just like we did on the gray cord. Same thing, just keep following it around. Right there. Once again, you don't need to pull it super tight here, just keep following it around. You're just pulling slack out of the knot. Alright, here we are. And this is harder, this is actually harder with 550 cord than it is with regular standard cord, because the knots can tend to flatten, and that's not an easy thing to fix once it's there. So you may get a knot, you may get a strand like this one, which is going to lay right on top of the other strand. See that? All right, that's okay. It's going to fix itself when everything tightens up. All right. So what you want to do is chase that back around, find out where it started to go awry, and fix it. Alright, so here we are. Pull that knot over so that it is the top, pull the gray over so it's the top cord. And this is why we left it loose. This is why we didn't pull anything super tight here. So we could fix these types of things when they happened. Alright, because, they're going to happen. It's a knot. It's not always going to behave. Alright, there we are. That's fixed. And we're just going to continue cinching up. Alright, so you can see how the gray is now the one that needs the tightening. So once again, find that primary cord. It's going to be right there. Right? And we're just going to give that primary cord a tug. Once again, make sure you get a good grip on the cord if you're going to use the needle noses. And this is where the needle noses are going to become necessary. Alright. And just keep following it around. And you're going to keep tightening it until it becomes very difficult to pull any more cord out of the knot. Alright, so not super tight. Don't go super tight as soon as you get started on the pliers, or else the knot's never going to really let you tighten it anymore. Just keep pulling it snug. Just keep cinching it shut. Alright, just like that. You don't want to mess up your beads with the pliers, so just be careful. Alright, and you just keep pulling that excess cord out. Just keep pulling it out as you get it. Alright, now we're going to go back to the brown. Once again, there's